So the new class, we'll see if it's has any traction. Short class, we're going to learn the laws of Shabbat of tefilah of davening. And like Janet asked, we're going to start off with a story of the Baal Shem Tov. So the story of the Baal Shem Tov I wanted to share is a story short like this. Motzaei Shabbos is accustomed to learn to tell a story of the Baal Shem Tov. So it's a story that happened with a fellow called Rebbe Vigdor, who came to the Baal Shem Tov and brought him a gift. The Baal Shem Tov was very gracious and very grateful for the gift that was brought to him by this Rebbe Vigdor, and he asked him if he would like that if he could bless him with anything, if he could bless him with some parnasa, with wealth, with helping in his finances. Baal Shem Tov was a big tzaddik, a righteous person. And the Rebbe Vigdor says, no, thank you. I don't need it. I have a lot of fields. I have a lot of business. And hold on. Let me just send the link. Hold on a second. Sorry. Again, so this Rebbe Vigdor gives a gift to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov tells him that, hey guys, sorry about that. I don't know. I forgot to change to the regular class. It's a new class, the regular class setting. So this Rebbe Vigdor, we're telling the story of the Baal Shem Tov. Janet asked. It's customary in Motzaei Shabbos to tell a story of the Baal Shem Tov. So this is a story about 300 years ago. This fellow Rebbe Vigdor comes to the Baal Shem Tov to give the Baal Shem Tov this beautiful gift, and the Baal Shem Tov offers to reward him with any kind of blessing he would like. And he says, can I help you with parnasa? He says, no. Arrogantly, he says, I'm a very wealthy man. I have more than I need. I don't need any help. He says, can I bless you with your family, your children? No, my children are well behaved and they give me nachas. We're very happy. We're good. So he says, can I at least ask you to do me a favor? So he says, sure. He says, I want to know if you could deliver for me a letter to the head of the charity in the city of Brody. So he says, sure, I live in Brody. I'll give it to to the head of the charity in Brody. So the Baal Shem Tov writes a letter, gives it to me, puts it in his pocket, and he goes home. 16 years pass, and all of a sudden, the fortune of this Avigdor turns, and one thing happens after the next, and eventually he becomes extremely poor. He has to sell everything. He's evicted from his home. He has to even start selling his private things just to be able to pay for day-to-day life. And he starts eventually to sell off his clothing. Comes one day and he's about to sell this nice jacket that he used to have. And when he was a very wealthy man, and he checks the pockets to make sure he's not throwing anything out. And he finds the letter of the Baal Shem Tov that asked him 16 years before to deliver this letter to the head of the charity of the city of Brody. And he says, oh yeah, I forgot to deliver the letter. So he runs out panicking to the street, and he meets a friend, and he says, and he sees the letters addressed to a Mr. Tzadok, head of the charity committee. So he comes running out and he says, finds a friend of his on the street. He goes, you know where Mr. Tzadok lives? So he goes, you mean Mr. Tzadok, the head of the charity committee? He says, yes, that's him. He says, the one who was just appointed today, the head of the charity committee. He goes, I guess, who is he? He says he was a poor tailor that could barely make ends meet. Eventually, he caught the attention of the nobleman, and he starts to make uniforms and suits for the kings and for the princes, and he becomes a very wealthy man, and he became a member of the community, a very long-standing member of the community, and he was appointed just now, I was in Shul, he was appointed this morning, head of the charity committee. So he thinks it's a bit strange. He has a letter from the Baal Shem Tov addressed to Rabbi Tzaddik from 16 years before. He doesn't question Baal Shem Tov. He runs into the room, and he says to the synagogue, and he sees this Reb Tzaddik. He says, "You Reb Tzaddik, the new appointed head of the charity committee?" He goes, "Yes." He goes, "I have a letter from you from the Baal Shem Tov." So they find it both very fascinating. They open the letter, And in the letter, Baal Shem Tov addresses Mr. Tzaddik like this. He says, today, Mazel Tov, you've been appointed the head of the charity committee. The person who's delivering you this letter, his name is Mr. Victor, who was once himself a very wealthy man. And he was also very arrogant, and he lost everything, but he's ready to start again to learn from his past arrogance. I'm asking you to please help him, because you're the head of the charity committee to, get him back on his feet so he could start his businesses again. And they're both very fascinated of the foresight of the Baal Shem Tov, the Ruach HaKodesh. And the Baal Shem Tov continues, and he says in the letter, and if you doubt the truth of this letter, so you should know that today you're going to have a son. And then comes running in someone from the outside and says, Mazel Tov, Mr. Tzaddik, your wife just had a baby boy. And so that's the story of the Baal Shem Tov, and it's a fascinating story. There's a lot to think about that story, but Janet's not here tonight. But the story is in honor of Janet, who asked us to say the story in tonight's class, is in honor of my daughter Rachel Yitl Bastavorlai, who has a birthday. Okay, let's bring up the text. We're going to be learning the laws of tefilah, of davening. So let's go here. It's in a short class, not a long class. Okay. It says like this. Quotes the Shulchan Aruch quotes as follows. Chsiv, it says, Hi koin likras alekecha Yisrael, that prepare to meet your God, O Israel. Based on this verse, Pirush, Shiachin es atzmei lifnei Hashem Yisbarach. A person has to prepare themselves before they stand before Hashem in davening. Meaning, Shiyalbish es atzmei b'malbushei kavod. You can't just wear any clothing when you go to shul or when you daven. You should put on respectable clothing. And certain shuls have actually bylaws with regard to how you could either enter the shul or if you could daven to lead the congregation. Imagine how would you dress if you were standing before an important high official. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch has, even if you're not going to shul for whatever that reason is, and you're davening at home, bichidus, alone, make sure you're dressed appropriately. Of course, sneas, and also just in a respectable way. And those who have the custom to belt themselves, Hasidim have the custom to wear the outside, the gartel. So, you cannot daven until you belt yourself. You have to put on the gartel, the belt, which is an idea of the belt is separating your heart from your lower parts of your body. So the parts of your body that kind of deal with extremely mundane things to separate from your heart when it comes to davening. So you should have kind of focus. There are those who don't use a gartel, they use the belt that they're wearing. And but if you're a person that's accustomed to especially belt yourself, and there's verses to support that, is aside for being like the Kohen, etc., is then you should do that before you daven. Okay, just the quotes in footnote number 1. He gives us the reference of the pasuk of Ahiko and Likras Elekach Yisrael. He says like this: Toiv litein tzedakah koid matfila. It's good. It's a good custom. And it's a good idea to give charity before we start davening. This is a known custom, and the Rebbe was very makbid to suggest that a person should give tzedakah, he or she, before they daven. It's not a lot. You can put in a few coins in the pushka. I saw the Rebbe say before davening, you should put in 3 coins. Shenemar, like it says, to support this, there's a verse that says, Ani bit tzedek, from the word tzedek, it's righteousness, but also could be used for tzedakah. Echsa panecha, I will behold your presence. So when we look towards Hashem, we're ready to talk to Hashem, but tzedek, we come with tzedakah. Gam yikabel elav koidim kol tefilah mitzvahs v'hafta recha kamocha. It's also the custom to a person commit to the renowned mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew. To make that commitment, and we have also in Chabad, we have the Hareini Mekabel Elai mitzvahs asay shel v'hafta recha kamocha. It's part of the davening we say before the Matovim. V'yichavin, and when you say when you take upon yourself to love every Jew as yourself, So this says you should have a certain kavan, you should have certain intentions, which is le'ehoiv es kol echad misrael kenafshe. You should love every single one of the Jewish people as you love yourself. If there's separation, God forbid, between the hearts of the Jewish people here below, there's no unity above. But when you have unity here below, when we're in our bodies, that we have unity, we accept unity between each other, that causes that there should be unity and cleaving of the souls together above. And then it unifies the prayers. And when the tefillos, when the prayers are together, united, it is then it's a favorable davening. So to have a unit, so how do we have a favorable davening? To walk it backwards, you have to have unity, because the unity creates that should be a single prayer of a congregation, and that's dependent on that there should actually be love and unity between the people in the congregation. Footnote number 2, he quotes the word, the psalm is in 17:15, so the word bitzedek is similar to the word tzedakah, charity. That's why we learn from this verse of Tehillim, chapter 17, to give tzedakah give charity before we daven. Love your neighbor as yourself. He quotes Leviticus. Okay. Ksiv, it says, Shemor raglecha kasher telech el beis Elokim. Says, guard your feet when you walk to the house of God. V'darshu Rabbeinu Zechreinu Livracha. Our rabbis learn from this verse. This refers to the openings of a person, which are near the legs, that a person has to shamar raglecha. You have to watch, guard your feet, guard your nekavim, guard your openings. Person has to check themselves if they need to go to the restroom, to relieve themselves. Make sure you do it before davening. You have to make sure that you take care of that before davening. It's part of there's a verse that says you shouldn't daven if you need to go to the restroom. If you have to check if you have to go to the restroom. And if you feel that you need to go to relieve yourself even just a little bit, it's forbidden to daven. It's even forbidden to teach Torah or to speak Torah, to learn Torah. As long as your body, so to say, hold on, Rebecca, when your body is meshukatz, means really kind of in an unclean state, meaning you need to relieve yourself. Until you relieve yourself. Yes, Rebecca, you're on mute.
What about like if someone's in the middle of Shmona Esrei and only then they start to have an urge that they need to use the restroom? Do they need to stop in the middle of Shmona Esrei, or could they finish and then go?
Yeah, I think he's gonna address some of these questions as we go further in this law. So
Okay.
let's see, and we'll go back. He
Okay.
says Ubediavad. B'diavad means if you're ready praying, and you have to go to the bathroom. This is the question you just asked. If he or she is able to figure, if you can walk 1 hour and a fifth in such a situation, tefilah say tefilah, then it's considered a davening. Means if you've started to daven and you need to go to the restroom, but if you feel that if you had to hold yourself in, you can hold yourself in for an hour and a fifth, right? So ve'im lav, and if not, if it's pressing, afilu b'diavad imispal, even if you prayed tefilah say te'eva, he calls it a very strong term. Your prayer is an abomination. You have to daven again. Let's just finish the law. And there's those who say, there's those who say that if it's not just talking about the Evid, you start to daven, but if you need a little bit, but you could wait, so then even initially you could start to prayer because that's enough time to pray. Im hu be'inyan sheba'oid shifana yaver zman atfila v'ayin lekamon siman yudches. He says you could rely on this. If let's say you come into the shul and they're about to start davening, and you know that you could hold yourself, so not to miss the minyan or to not to miss the zman tefillah, the time of davening, meaning it's past the zman. So then you could rely on this source. Now, seemingly to answer your question, Rebecca, it all depends on how bad you need. I mean, if it's bad, if it's mamish pressing, then you should stop davening, because he says if it's mamish pressing, it's considered a tefilah toyeva that you have to do the tefilah again anyways. Yes, Rebecca.
But like, let's say, okay, fine. So let's say it's urgent. So you go in the middle of davening. So then you make sure not to talk or anything, and then you go
Start
back.
again.
Oh, you don't just continue where you were. You start over.
Yeah, you have to start again because he
Okay.
says the tefilah wasn't a tefilah.
Okay, got it.
It says Misha Bari loy she'eni yochel amad al atzmi lafiach. If a person realizes that he or she cannot control themselves from passing gas, yigmar kriya shema tefilah, until they finish the davening. Mutif shi'aver zman kriya shema tefilah mimach yisbal b'loy gufnaki. So better to wait it out, to go to pass the gas, even if you're going to miss the time of davening and missing the time of Krishma, which is midaraisa, biblical. It's better to forgo the zman and not have to pass gas during the tefilah, during the davening. Yes, Aaron.
Okay, given this, I'm telling you a little something about me. I have Crohn's. So when it was back when I had the big flare up, there was no way to not pass. So it'd be like I would have to skip, or I would have to pray and just hope for the best. Can't sit in the bathroom, and it wouldn't. I don't have to go to the bathroom. I just have gas. So what do you do?
So he's but there's another question also. There's the question of tefillin, to where you're not allowed to wear tefillin when you have to pass gas. So no, we're talking about like if you feel if you can't control yourself from passing gas, you can't wear tefillin. Some people who suffer from that, you have to speak to your rabbi to get exactly a psak, but to only put on tefillin mamish for Shema and Shemoneh Esrei, and not to wear the tefillin the whole day, the whole tefillah. And if you're uncomfortable doing that in public, so you would speak to your rabbi to find out what he would paskin. But yeah, you would have to make sure that when you're not passing gas while you're davening. You have to wait till you have that kind of a feel like you have a good moment, even if it's past the time of davening, even if it's past the minyan.
Now let me ask you. Go back to the dressing. So in my shul, I don't mind, and the rabbi doesn't care if we wear shorts, but I won't go into a shul with sandals like you see in Israel. Okay, so the point is that it happens in the summer. I'll be at the beach, and then I'm coming home, and somebody will come up. We need you for a minyan, and I'm like, I'm not appropriate. I'm not going to your shul, and they say we don't care. We need a minyan, and if you're wearing sandals, no big deal. We won't say anything. We won't look. And I'm like, no, and I say no, but I know there's a mitzvah of making a minyan, and I needed to pray. It's not like I already prayed. I would have gone home, changed, and gone to pray. But what would you do in that situation?
Um, so that's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, let's just go back a second and see the wording over here. It says, there's two answers you could give. One answer is to give is that 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 you don't have to daven. You could just make the minyan. So that's the prohibition is not to walk. It doesn't say to walk in the synagogue. It says to daven, to pray. So if you're conscious about it and uncomfortable, and that's not the way you're doing things, so you could sit there and not pray, but you make the minyan. So that's different, because you do make the minyan, and the law is talking about davening. So although you could say, well, I'm creating the atmosphere of davening, but it's not the same. It's not exactly the same thing. There are many cases where people come and join a minyan to be a 10th person, a 10th man, even if they're not davening or if they davened already. That's number one. And number two is if the community says this is okay, if they're okay for you to dress that way, because that's how everyone dresses, then maybe it's not considered an inappropriate way of dressing. If they're saying that we don't dress this way, but we need you as a minion, so then you could ask yourself if you're comfortable davening, if they're forgiving of your dress, and they say, yes, sure, you could join us and be part of the minion. So then I'm sure in such a case, I would be lenient to daven and join the minion.
Thank you.
Misha Bari, the 4. Oh, sorry, did you have any footnotes on law 3? I think we did. We have 4. Okay, and shows this the verse of the pasuk. Okay. He's saying that if you could not have restrained yourself even through that you have prayed, your prayer is an abomination, must be pray again. This does not apply if you only had the need to urinate. Okay, so this is the Magen Avram differentiates between if you have to urinate or if you have to go to the bathroom properly. So then, if it's just urinate, so then back to your question, Rebecca, maybe you would not have to daven again. It doesn't say over here if the Magen Avram is saying about davening again or urinating in general is not a problem, as much of a problem. We need to say if you have to urinate suddenly in the middle of Shemona Esrei and you think you could hold it in, it seems like to hold it in and just finish the Shemona Esrei.
I meant like a stomach kind of a thing, not.
Okay. Misha Bari Laishan Yechalam and the lots. Okay, we did that. Yeah, so we're V'im over Zman tefilah anasu. And if a person doesn't daven because they have to wait till they're past gas, so it's and you pass the time of davening, so you're an honest. It wasn't your fault. V'im Yir Laishan the lots Mishas Kriya Shema. If you feel you could hold it in, you could control yourself just the time of Shema itself. So he says, Yaniach tefillin, you put on tefillin, like I said, right at the end of the final blessing, likriya Shema to the blessing to make the blessing on Shema. You make quickly the tefillin, and you daven quickly the short amount for Shema, because this idea you have to say Shema with tefillin. And then as long as if you could hold in, then you hold. If not, you take off your tefillin. Okay, footnote number 7, he says, then the prayer with an unclean, so he says it's preferable to let the period of Shema and Amidah elapse rather than pray with an unclean body. However, the later poskim agree that you should recite Shema and say the Amidah in their proper time, but without tefillin. So this is answering what we said to Aaron, that if you can't control it, so just say the davening, the Shema and the Amidah. That's what the paskin. That's the ruling they have today. Even if you can't control yourself to pass gas, but you're not in tefillin, so it's not as severe. Yes. So the blessing immediately preceding Shema is when you should put on the tefillin. So there's two things here. There's passing gas while you're wearing tefillin, because passing gas during davening, you could let the gas pass and walk away from the unpleasant smell and then go back to continuing davening. But in tefillin, you're not allowed to pass gas. So he's saying that it's better to just daven without tefillin than to daven with tefillin and obviously pass gas, or to wait until the time passes. Yes, Aaron.
What if it doesn't smell? Because some people pass a lot of gas without smell.
Okay, that's something else. That's another question. But usually we're talking. It's if you better not wear tefillin if you're passing gas.
Gotcha.
Okay, a person must wash their hands until the wrists before davening. We have to wash our hands before davening. Therefore, even if you washed your hands in the morning before davening, if you touched something that was unclean, meaning places that you usually cover, that are covered in your body, you touch it, scratch under your armpit, etc. That there is sweat, accumulated sweat. If you scratched your hair, or if you didn't wash your hands, negelvasser, up until the wrist. You have to wash your hands again before davening. But if you don't have water, so you have to walk back 1 mil if you're on the way somewhere. So you're going back So you have to like kind of losing what you've walked. You would have to walk up to a mill, and if you anyways going forward, wait. You could walk as much as 4 mil to wait to daven until you find water. But what happens if you're going to do that walking, looking for water? It's going to pass the time of davening, or pass the minyan. So then you could then in that case you could clean your hands on a stone or earth or something, that a towel or something, you could just wipe your hands. It says, I will wash my hands in purity. I will wash in water if possible. If not, then I will. Means what the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is saying is that we learned the verse to mean two statements. First is erchatz. I'm going to try to wash my hands with water if I can. If not, then I'm going to do anything binikoyin, anything that will clean my hands, which could be even dirt or rubbing on a stone, etc. Okay, this idea, sometimes you see people, if they don't find water, maybe some people are less careful in trying to look for the water, but they'll rub their hands on wood or something like that. Okay, footnote number 9. A mil is the distance of 2,000 cubits. So it's quite a walk. This applies if to one on a journey, but when not on a journey, that's only a person who's walking. What about a person who's just in the shul or just at home? You need not go more than a mil in searching for water. So you don't have to go more than, let's say, 3,000 feet. So looking for water. Number 10 is, he quotes the verse, and number 11, he says, see the Masech, the Gemara Maseches Brachas. Let's do one more law. Let's say a person did wash their hands in the morning when they woke up properly up to the wrist. But you don't know for sure if you made your hands dirty. It means between waking up and davening is a bit of time, and you weren't conscious if you touched something or you didn't touch something. But because you didn't pay attention, you kind of left your awareness about your hands. Even if you're studying in between. At that time when you're learning, you're paying attention to the learning, you're not really concentrating on what's happening with your hands. So then you should wash your hands. Again, even if you don't know if you touch something, better wash your hands before davening. But if in this case, when you did wash your hands in the morning, and you're not sure if you touched something that would make your hands unclean, so then if you have water available, good. If not, then you don't have to start searching for it. If you don't have water available, and if you're going to start looking for water, hold on, Aaron, you're going to miss the minyan. So so then just rub your hands on whatever you can. With the community, with the minyan. Yes, Aaron.
Do all the washing that you're supposed to do when you first get up. But then the second thing you do is get dressed. So then you have to wash your hands, right? Because you're getting dressed.
Yes, I mean, if you're getting dressed and you touch parts of your body that are usually uncovered, then yes, you should wash your hands again.
So the act of getting dressed is automatically washing your hands. Now,
yes.
Okay, now they told me, or I read this, or I heard this, there shouldn't be dirt between you and your tefillin. So does that mean you should take a shower before? Because you always have a little dirt or sweat.
No, we're talking about more, we're talking about dirt, not a lot. There's nowhere it says you have to shower before davening. You have to. There's the idea of the mikvah, obviously. They go to purify yourself. As far as cleanliness goes, if you're dirty, if you have a chatzitza, something that separates, it has to be something solid, not something that's just micro that can't be seen from the naked eye.
Okay.
Yes, Rebecca.
If you like scratch your head in the middle of davening, do you need to go wash your hands?
From what it says here, yes. If the water's in the case there, you have to look for water because that's one of the places that he describes as touching things that make your hands unclean.
Just to say this, my rabbi says, you could just touch the wooden bench if you just touch your head, and that would be suffice.
That's why I said this is what it says here, because I've seen that's the custom. People or part of the minyan that they won't go out and wash their hands; they'll rub their hands on wood on the bench here. Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this class. I don't know what happened with the link. I think I forgot to put on the link for the class, so I wonder if that's why the others who said they would come didn't. But either way, next week we'll make sure to watch for that. Yashar Koach, thank you for joining. Shvua Tov, and see you in the rest of the classes.
Thank you.